Well, good evening, everybody. It's not technically Saturday morning yet for me. Late Wolves games though, West Coast. I'm your host Andrew Dukowitz, beat reporter for Zone Coverage. This is the Missing Wolves post game live stream podcast thing, and today we got Conrado, who covers just about everything you can think of over on the West Coast, covers the Warriors, the Valkyries, also is in the middle of writing a WNBA prospect guide, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
He is just about as involved in hoops as you can be. Conrado, how's it going, man? I haven't talked to you since we both thought the Valkyries would, or the Lynx would win the championship.
Yeah, I know. And here we are wondering if or when there's going to be another WNBA season, right? But I know for tonight, we're here to talk about the NBA. I mean, overall, to go to your question, I'm great. I'm good, as you alluded to. Definitely keeping busy with NBA draft coverage, WNBA draft coverage. My top 80 WNBA prospect, right? Write-up will be coming out very soon. How many people do top 80, right? So there you go.
Not many people do top 80, but if they do end up expanding the rosters to 15 and we're getting 2 expansion teams, wow, there might be a world in the near future.
I know.
60 to 70 women are getting drafted.
Leave no stone unturned.
Exactly. And you never know. You never know who's going to you are currently following a team that has Pat Spencer. So I doubt he would have been on the men's 80, but here he is.
I know, and he gave a good show tonight. All things considered.
He seems like the heir apparent to Draymond. Of like when Draymond retires, Pat Spencer's just going to take over the kind of like annoying stepping on people's feet, maybe starting fights and instigating, but I don't know. What is your Pat Spencer? This is taking a weird turn right off the get-go.
No, go for it.
Like, what is your Pat Spencer experience? Is it like as fun as it seems?
Oh, absolutely. Like, yes, I do cover the NBA draft, so I was aware of who Pat Spencer was, like when he used his graduate year to play like 1 year of NCAA hoops. Again, I'm not like the most diehard lacrosse fan, but that's how I remember his name coming up, that like he was like this, uber lacrosse star, arguably like one of the greatest to ever play it. But ever since the Warriors acquired him from the Capital City Go-Go, it was very easy to understand why they wanted to acquire him. All right. I mean, you could say he's a point guard, more of a combo guard, but again, like he has like that element of functional athleticism where, right, he could actually leverage it to, break the paint, put pressure on the rim from the backcourt. And again, like the Warriors have had a history of really utilizing and maximizing their two-way contract successfully, right? In no particular order, right? Like Juan Toscano-Anderson, Quinn Cook, Damian Lee, they've had like these success with guys who are like 4 or 5 year players in college and, not a star, but they found ways to contribute. So Pat Spencer is definitely that guy. But right now, there's just like all this enthusiasm because he's giving the team what a lot of the draft picks have failed to do.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least he's giving it at a more consistent level. You mentioned, my East Meets West partner, Michael, just yesterday, he and I were talking about it and he said, really, like Pat Spencer's giving you what Brandon Podjemski was supposed to be giving you.
100%. Yeah.
Yes. I don't think any Warrior fan would disagree with that, but I just feel like, I know it's Warrior fans. There's a lot, we'll get into this. There's a lot of things that we feel, the roster needs like some tweaking or improvements. He's definitely providing like he's beginning that step in the right direction. Let's just put it that way. So that's the thing, right? I do believe his level of play is sustainable. I do believe it's real, but I also believe that like a lot of Warrior fans are even more enamored because he's basically just not, failing the team and failing the fan base, right?
Not failing is You know, that could be said for Wolves draft picks too. Obviously, they hit on, Jaden, Ant, Nas. Like those are kind of their big three that they've hit on. But they've also had Jalen Clark. They've also had Chris Dunn, Rob Dillingham, who looks to be trending that direction at the moment. Been a lot of misses for the Wolves too. So
Yeah.
I think Wolves fans can understand that feeling where it's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, this guy is actually doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, I don't want to take away from his accomplishments, and what he's been able to contribute to the team lately. It does really feel like his level of play is sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does that ultimately materialize in? Like, I mean, I think at this point he will remain in the rotation, but just how many minutes is he getting? I mean, tonight we saw it, like, Seth Curry. Seth Curry is understandable to be a DNP, relatively
Yeah.
new to the team, but Will Richard, who's actually been giving the team some really, really good minutes, even as a true rookie. I mean, he was DNP tonight. So it kind of goes to show how much faith Steve Kerr and the coaching staff have in him. And frankly, I'm all for it. I'm all for it, and I've loved anytime I get an opportunity to go out and watch the Santa Cruz Warriors, right? Like, I've talked to a number of other, like, people who cover their respective, like, NBA teams, G League affiliates.
Yeah.
And there are certain G League teams where, like, it's almost as if they serve no purpose,
Yeah.
right? It's like a completely separate entity. They barely have any communication with their big club. Santa Cruz isn't like that, like those players, they're not, misled to think that all of them will eventually be on Golden State's roster, but they do go in with the understanding that they are going to be developed and prepped for the possibility that they could be incorporated. See what I'm saying? So that's why, like, there's so much familiarity already for Pat Spencer and the Warriors system. So yeah, I'm very happy for him. I'm excited. And frankly, I hope he continues getting consistent playing
It
time.
it's interesting you say that because the Wolves kind of use this in a similar way. Like I don't think a lot of the guys on the Wolves G League team are like destined for the main roster, but like
Yeah.
Nas Reed went through the G League team. TJ got a good run with him last year. Jordan McLaughlin, Jalen Noel, like they have churned out these like undrafted, late drafted players through their G League system.
Yeah.
But really they use it almost more of like send the like a AAA system where it's like,
Yeah.
let's send Johan down there and just get him right before we try him in the rotation, or let's get Rocco their other pick this year. Let's get him some run down there just so he can get used to it. But it's interesting with their G League team because they also like, probably 10 out of the 15 guys on the rosters will never like sniff the Wolves
Yeah.
board, and that's probably how it is everywhere. But like I do hear the same thing you hear, where like other teams G League affiliates are more of just like kind of a small town, like
Yeah.
revenue generating thing.
At the very least, like, again, even those guys will never, as you said, never like sniff like a second with the big club, right? Like their purpose, like their placement on the G League team definitely has a direct effect to the development of, like, say, like your drafted players.
Yes,
In
exactly.
other teams, I don't even think that's the case,
Yeah.
right? That's why I really respect all those guys in Santa Cruz, right? Like, I mean, whether again they end up getting an NBA call up or not, like, I definitely appreciate the work that they put in. So a guy like Pat Spencer, totally happy for him. Like, I think he absolutely deserves, right? The praise that he's receiving right now. So,
well, let's transition over to Wolves talk a little bit. CD brings up in the chat, how many times did Post get posterized by Rudy? I counted 3.
I was going to say
3. and some of them were pretty tough to watch if you're on the Post side of it. But I'm always curious when I have people on that cover other teams or that follow other teams, of just like what like from an outsider's view, like what has your view of the Wolves been? Because I think it's very easy for Wolves fans to get down, but at the same time, it's like they're within sniffing distance of the 2 seed, and they're
Right.
16-8 after tonight. Like
I think 16-9 is what I'm seeing here.
16-9. Like
Yeah.
it's real hard to say that's a failure.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, you know, before we went on air, I do pay attention to, like, you know, some of the commentary or reaction from Wolves fans. I'm as much on NBA Twitter as a lot of people who are probably tuning in right now. I am definitely not as negative as some of, like, you know, the diehard Wolves fans who are probably not particularly pleased. Let's put it that way, right? Maybe not completely upset, but, you know, I understand why they think this has probably been a little bit underwhelming. Again, I'm not as negative, but I definitely understand and to a certain degree agree with some of those sentiments. From an outsider's perspective, okay, so actually you did touch about you talked about Rob Dillingham.
Yeah.
You know, part of, again, like the fans being very upset with picks that don't hit is there's this added pressure for guys like Rob Dillingham, and there's like similar pressure for guys like, you know, on the Warriors. A lot of parallels I see with our two teams, right? Rob Dillingham,
Pods, I think, has the same kind of, like, Pods wasn't expected to come in and be like this ball handling pair next to an Anthony Edwards, but like he was expected to be the new Klay Thompson by a lot of people. And
right.
I do think the parallels between like Rob and Pods are there.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Continue.
Like, they don't get the grace that other lottery picks. Well, I mean, Pods was just outside the lottery, but you get what I'm saying, right? They don't get the same grace as other draft picks to just develop, because there is now this pressure for them to contribute ASAP. So I feel bad for Rob Dillingham. Like, I was relatively optimistic about him. I still am. You know, it's just right now I understand, again, he's still trying to find his way, you know, kind of like his rhythm, his niche as an NBA player, but he has to do it now with the spotlight of supposedly being an actual contributor, right? Like, that's why going into the season, I was really pessimistic about your guys' backcourt rotation, specifically point guard.
Fair.
You know, I think I may have said it to you a little bit, but like, I didn't like the idea of, I don't like the idea of having to rely on a second year Rob Dillingham who didn't get as much playing time as rookie. I don't like the idea of having to rely on, you know, towards the end of his career, Mike Conley. Or then again, you're going to other young guys who are probably playing out of position. Shout out Terrence Shannon Jr., right? You know, so that's why, like, I understand like these inconsistencies that your team kind of sees, like, you know, either from game to game or even within quarter to quarter. To me, there's a direct explanation. It's things like that, right? It's an inherent roster problem, but it's what you're dealing with, right? Until further notice, right?
Exactly.
So, but other than that, I mean, I don't know. It's weird because, like, again, you're talking about, like, from an outsider's perspective, you still continue to see Julius Randle's name thrown in trade rumors. And I could understand, right? Like, well, I mean, you're at the second apron, right? So, I mean, like, your flexibility
we have
is a little.
They have 3 million before they hit the second apron. So they're first apron, but pretty, like, they can't take back any extra money.
But they can aggregate salaries still, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, all I'm saying is I could understand if Randall's name is involved in, say, like, you know, like Giannis trades or something like that. But when it's not, I can understand where, like, frustration would build from his fans and his camp. Right. When he's been arguably the most consistent, maybe not like the best. I'd still say Ant is the best, but he definitely has been the most consistent. So there's like this weird vibes. It's a vibe that you wouldn't think you would have from a team that is, again, 16-9. And again, you could make an argument you could or should be 19-6, but still, as you said, right? You're like, what, 2-3 games out of like the second seed. And I had a feeling you were going to ask me something like this going into it. Like, I kind of feel like the Wolves and the Warriors have similar vibes amongst their fan base. Like, even if you're winning, this is still relatively a disappointment.
Yeah.
Like, like for the talent level, but maybe you guys are arguably more talented because you're younger and stuff and bigger. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like, I think relative to expectation. So, yeah, like, I don't know. I think to a certain degree, I feel that way. I just don't feel as negatively. Like, okay, let's see how you are come trade deadline, or at least when all your main players are back, in the
Yeah.
rotation.
I mean, the Rob part of it, I think, like tonight, I think is a pretty good example of where, he's like his net rating is like -50 going into the fourth quarter. He's like 1 for 5, a really bad turnover, just not ideal on either side of the court. And then he shows those couple of plays in the fourth quarter, the like flashes where he just gets to the basket, and it's like, man, why can't he do that all the time? But then you kind of look at it and it's like, well, he tried to do that. He just got the crap blocked out of him in the second quarter, and he tried to do it again in the third, and it just didn't work out. Like, I there's something there. I still have hope that he's going to be like a like an NBA player. I don't think he's like destined for overseas. It's really hard to see a path for him on the Wolves, though. Like,
That's
the
the thing.
Wolves,
Yeah.
like they don't have a point guard, and they are opting to say, Ant, you're our point guard, Julius, you're our creator, Dante, get out there and let's try it. I agree with you. Like, and I think the Wolves would probably agree as well, is just like they don't want to rely on 37-year-old Mike Conley this playoffs. Like, if he's there and can play 12 minutes, like, that's awesome. But like, I really think the Wolves like thought Rob would take this job, and whether that's like a miscalculation on their end, whether that's, like hubris of Tim Connolly thinking it was going to work, or Chris Finch like just thinking that an off season is going to fix this guy. John brings up in the chat, bummer about Bones getting hurt after getting his start. I do think, like, honestly, he's probably their best bet now of a point guard in house, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I mean,
I think when you're relying on Bones Highland to be like your starting caliber point guard, like, it could happen. Like, he does have the things. His assist to turnover ratio historically has been good, but like, he's a volume scorer that hasn't shot well in his first 3.5 years of his career. So the point guard thing is a major issue. It's just, do you run it out with Ant and try and get him reps, or do you, everyone from Kobe White to LaMelo Ball is getting linked to Minnesota now. So do you take a swing? Which, that's where it for me, it's really tough. Like, I think just ride it out, picks open up in the off season, make a swing this off season. Like, if you could throw Julius, Jaden, and 3 first-round picks as a trade offer, you can kind of get anyone in the league. But they're, to your point, like, they have the Wolves fan base has this like sense of urgency about them, of like, if we don't continue to win, like, Ant's gonna leave. And I think that's kind of similar to the Warriors fan base urgency of like, we don't have a lot of Steph left, so we gotta win. It's just, I think expecting Ant to leave is a little like glass half empty. Like, he seems happy here.
I mean, yeah. I don't know if that's necessarily, again, I don't know if that's just an overreaction from fans that feel that way. Because again, I guess if you look at it, right, you were just in the Western Conference Finals last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I know, make no mistake, if you ask me right now, who do I think is going to win the NBA Finals, I would say OKC, right? Yeah. And I don't think, if anyone else says that, I don't think you're crazy to think that. But we have to remember, hey, right, like, there were a couple bounces, or, well, I don't want to make light of injuries, right? They went to 7 games twice in their playoff run. So it's not like, hey, right, they're completely unbeatable. I mean, make no mistake, right now we probably feel that way, but
Right.
Come playoff time, something be different. These windows of contention can open and close, or they can close as soon as they open. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I could understand for a team like you guys with the Timberwolves, right? It's like we have this fairly dominant, if not at the very least formidable front court. But how much longer do we have that?
Yep.
There's no guarantee that you can necessarily upgrade that, right? And even if Julius leaves, you can, improve in one area, but then take a massive step back in another area. So I kind of get that. Because again, do we need like an all-star? Like if I'm like a Timberwolf fan, do we need an all-star point guard? Probably not. I mean,
Yeah.
like I think they're probably attainable, right?
To that point, like we saw it in this game again, where like the Wolves struggle to bring the ball up the court.
Yeah.
Like they can't. It's really hard to watch them in these clutch time situations because when Ant isn't in there, like they don't have anyone other than like Bones and Rob and Mike. And all three of those guys arguably shouldn't be in clutch time situations.
And make no mistake, right? Like I love Dante DiVincenzo.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously he was former Warrior. I loved him before he was Warrior. I still love him now, even though he just played against us tonight and essentially iced the game against my Warriors.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew that was gonna happen. I was like, dude, he's gonna make a clutch shot and he's gonna put this out of reach, man.
Yep.
But I remember when Dante was with the Warriors, similar thing happened, right? Because due to a lack of point guard depth, he had to essentially be the de facto like backup point guard. And then you kind of start to see like where his weaknesses are, right? In terms of like the handle and being able to handle ball pressure. You saw that again tonight, right? And that's why like going into the season, I didn't like this. I'm like, you're telling me Ant's going to have to basically play some minutes at point, which means Dante is going to have to do some minutes at point. And I don't like that. Right. And it's hard to play with pace like that.
There's a big enough sample size now where like, part of the reason that Phoenix game turned into such a debacle was like Dante couldn't get the ball up the court. Like,
yeah,
it is a big issue. And, they opted to give it to Julius a couple times for Julius to bring it up the court. And he gets trapped at like the logo and kind of freaks out and like throws a pass. Jaden just doesn't have that good of a handle. Nobody wants Rudy to touch the ball anywhere outside of 3 feet from the block. So like that will never happen. And then you have Naz, who honestly out of the 5 of them might be the best ball handler, but like he's like already at the corner on offense by the time the ball gets inbounded. So it's such a weird, like I never thought just bringing the ball up would be a pretty big weakness for an NBA team, but like that's also why a lot of the trade rumors, like I people have been tagging me in trade rumors, and I've seen like a bunch today of Jose Alvarado because that got said that he might be on the block. And it's like, well, Alvarado can't really like bring the ball up against bigger defenders. Like that doesn't help anything. Like Kobe White, I'll listen to. Lonzo, if Cleveland wants to get rid of him for some reason. But it's going to be such a fine line to try and get, because you don't want to give up Julius or like any of your main core pieces to get this point guard. But then like how good of a point guard are you? Just getting like Monte Morris again? And, that wasn't particularly a great move 3 years ago. It's just a really weird team. Is what I keep going back to, like roster wise, vibes wise, kind of everything.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, I don't want to be like, oh, where there's smoke, there's fire, but it's just, you keep hearing, especially like, and I don't mean to use it pejoratively, but you hear the same narratives over and over again. So it's like, what's up with that? Right. Is there something there? Right. But just real quick, actually, because I can't remember who asked me this, but they were talking about the Timberwolves. Let's say he was bought out. What about Chris Paul? I understand we just said Mike Conley, but hey, you have 2 old options now.
Between the two of you could get one half of basketball. Let's talk Chris Paul. I also have another person that might get bought out that I want to talk about, but first I'm going to throw us to a couple ad breaks here.
Go for it.
Well, hello. Thank you, live stream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read. This time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. I am also going to just add in off the cuff Firehawk remodeling. It is currently -1 degrees outside, and I can tell by my window that it sucks out there right now. I came home from work at 6 p.m. today, and it was 7 degrees on my car dash. This is like prime pipe freezing weather. Like if you wake up tomorrow and you're in Minnesota, Firehawk Construction, like call the number on the ad read, call the number in the description. Isaac and his team are awesome. They can come out, do estimates, at least get your water to stop filling up in your basement like he did when our garden pipes burst. It's just that time of the year. And if you're in the North Metro, Firehawk Construction's awesome. I'd recommend them. I use them. Friend of mine, and it is that time of the year where it is just going to be awful cold and weird things are going to start happening to your house because that's how Minnesota winters go. Okay, so John mentions in the chat here CP3 seems a little too toxic for the locker room. I'm mixed. So selfishly, as somebody that has press credentials and gets to go into the locker room, I would kill for Chris Paul in that locker room because that would give me the opportunity to talk to Chris Paul on a semi-regular basis. And like, as somebody who grew up watching a lot of, mid 2000s into 2010s basketball, that's kind of formulated my basketball opinion.
Yeah.
Selfishly, I would love it. Please go sign Chris Paul. That'd be great for Andrew Dukowitz's career. Now on the Wolves side, it is obnoxious. Like if they were to get in Chris Paul, I don't know how well his intensity fits with the team because this team is very like they lost that game to the Suns. They lost the game to the Kings. No one from Minnesota media was there. Everyone go email the Star Tribune's PR department so we can get Chris Hine back on the road. But like they lose the game to Oklahoma City and they're already just on to the next one. Like they all have memories like goldfish. Like it is the second they wake up the following morning, nothing that happened the day before exists, which is part of the reason why I think they keep having these lapses where they play down to certain competition. And then without Ant, they beat the Warriors, who objectively tonight probably had the better team and better star power, at least.
Yeah.
I think Chris Paul probably helps in that sense of like getting him in the locker room. It probably organizes those guys and makes them like show up to work every day a little bit better. But I don't know how well his vibe would mesh with like Ant, Jaden, Julius, who are all very like laid back, kind of, clown type of personalities. The person I'm more curious about, I guess, is Kyle Anderson is currently rotting away in Utah right now.
Wow.
I wonder if they go get Kyle. Like Chris Finch, I kid you not, Conrado. Chris Finch mentions Kyle Anderson almost every other week. He has not played on the team in 3 years. And Chris Finch will be like, yeah, we used to do this thing with Kyle and it worked really well. And, we're trying to do it a little bit with Nas. Like, I think that might be the play is just, let's get Kyle Anderson.
Again, just yesterday I was talking to MJ about it, and he actually wants Kyle Anderson in Detroit, right? So yeah.
I don't blame him.
Great minds think alike. Again, both guys who are former Warriors.
Yep.
Right? I will just simply say with Chris Paul, in his time as a Warrior, he was fantastic in terms of being like a locker room presence, and just a guy like a ambassador to the team, both on and off the court. That's the thing about it. Like in terms of, again, helping the team stay focused and look at it from a more cerebral, like taking a more cerebral approach to the game. I think he adds that. But I do agree in the sense that, like, I just kind of threw out that name because he'll potentially be a buyout candidate at some point.
Yeah.
But you guys need someone who could play. Like legitimately like play. Ideally you need someone who could comfortably supplant Rob Dillingham, right, in the depth chart. So that's probably not him. Kyle's interesting just because, again, as you said, slow-mo with the familiarity that Chris Finch has with him. I definitely
Rudy.
Yeah,
I think that is the thing that if you're gonna bring in somebody that it's so hard to explain and like I feel like I'm a Utah fan now, or I feel sympathy for them because for years we would hear all this stuff, right? Like, oh, he has the best numbers in the league. He's great on isolation defense against shot attempts. Like he's all of this defensive metric darlings. And like Rudy, I think is like a really good player. It's just everyone has to know how to play with him. And I if you bring in like a LaMelo Ball or the other guy that's getting a lot of steam right now, Kyrie Irving, I've seen a lot of trades linking him to Minnesota. Like D'Lo kind of hated Rudy because Rudy is such a unique player. Like he needs the ball passed to him in certain spots.
Right.
For him to like adapt to something, he really does need like evidence, like printed out pieces of paper of like, Rudy, this is what you need to do to be like X amount more efficient. And I don't know how well that would mesh with someone like Kyrie, who's like a basketball poet, where, everything he does is kind of this like beautiful game. And then, he hits Rudy under the basket and Rudy kicks it into the fourth row. And like, I think that genuinely is a vibe killer for some players. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if like a LaMelo Kyrie would just vibe with him. Godfrey, our resident stat keeper in the Rudy Gobert trade, mentions that Keontae George had 39 points tonight. Yeah, Keontae George, like, buy stock in that guy. He's been awesome this year. John mentions Andrew is not joking. My weather app says it's -3 and the real feel is -6. It is terrible.
And yet you're in short sleeves, so clearly, right? Indoor heating. So
indoor heating is wonderful. Yeah, it's a really weird point guard situation because, like I said, it has to be, if they go for it before the trade deadline, it has to be someone like you said that can kind of. I think ideally it makes Mike a 12-minute a night guy, and maybe Dante is back on the bench. Or
what about like poaching from the teams that are completely gonna blow it up, right? Like the Kings.
Yeah.
Right. Does a Dennis Schroeder appeal to you, or Russell Westbrook, I guess?
Russell, not so much. Dennis Schroeder, I really like. Like I just feel like he plays with a certain edge that it's hard to find. So like I think he would interest me, but then that contract is just 3-year deal for Schroeder. Like you look at other teams like Alvarado, I think would serve a purpose, but I don't think he would be like an answer to a lot of their problems. It's going to be a really interesting trade deadline for the Wolves because I mean my take is they do something kind of around the edges, like bringing in a backup big that can spot play in certain matchups, or bringing in another wing defender in case Terrence Shannon, hits another lull. And they kind of just keep this Harden model of Randall Ant running everything, and they
Right.
just hope. But at the same time, like if they go out and like the Kobe White stuff develops into something and they go trade for him, like I think it probably raises their ceiling a little bit, but I don't know how much you'd have to give up to raise your ceiling like 5 wins,
Yeah. But again, as last season showed us, right? I mean, like the difference between literally, what was it? The difference between like the 3rd seed and the 7th seed was like 3 games, 2
Yep.
games. And that's what I'm saying. Right now you're currently 2.5 games
Yep.
behind the 2nd seed. Like, I feel like there should be a sense of urgency from a lot of the teams. Minnesota, Warriors included, right? Because like the longer you wait, potentially the wider the gap, right? The gaps
Yep.
start to form, right, between the teams in the West. And again, we know how important that is. So that's why I'm saying, like, if I were you guys, December 15th is technically like the unofficial start of in-season trade,
Yep.
trade season. So it'll really be interesting to see because again, I'm with you. Like, given the role and the usage of guys like, Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, like the type of point guard you bring in, like, I don't want to say it's like it has to be like a niche kind of point guard,
Yeah.
but like it's you do need the guy who has that ability to, like, ideally a guy who can, again, handle the ball, facilitate, create off the dribble, but you don't need a guy who's taking up like a 30% usage, right? Like you have to be comfortable like around 20. And that's the way it comes in. Like, is that a Kobe White? Like, who's going to actually be copacetic with that type of role?
And that's again, that's where I keep getting stuck, is like the guys that come to my mind that are like that would be perfect, like Derek White. I think he literally did the same role with
Yeah.
Tatum and Brown. Like that would be kind of the perfect guy, but like the Celtics aren't going to trade Derek White. Tatum might be back for playoffs. Like he's part of their new like quote unquote core. Like Drew Holiday, I think would be good for this team. Like he's still pretty good defensively. He still has a handle, can bring it up, but then it's the contracts and it's like, do we want to? So same with Schroeder. Like, yeah, that would probably work pretty well, but then it's the contract. So it's just, it's such a fine line they have to run, because you're 100% right. Like if you go trade for LaMelo and you're telling LaMelo you have a 15% usage now, get used to it. LaMelo's not going to enjoy that.
I will be respectful, but I won't bite my tongue. I personally think LaMelo would be a horrible fit with pretty much any team. So if you kind of get where I'm going with this.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really think that his style of basketball is conducive to winning. Let's put it that way.
Midwest says bringing up the ball and inbounding. We do have the inbounding solved. We do have our closer.
I gotta say, that sideline out of bounds right after the challenge, that play to get basically Rudy streaking down the court, that was pretty cool. That was a good inbound right there. Okay.
For the we hate Chris Finch crowd, they do what they do sometimes. TJ McConnell, I'll throw this one to you. Like, what do you think of TJ McConnell? Because he honestly seems almost like a Warriors guy.
Oh yeah, he was a name that I was thinking of throughout this discussion. I don't really know how willing Indiana would be to part with him. I know he's definitely a big part of what they do, but I think that's he's exactly the type of guy who I was thinking, like, again, very steady hand, has no problem creating off the dribble. Again, just very functional paint touches,
Yep.
and again, he's a guy who just throughout his entire career, he's shown being very comfortable and still remaining very confident, even if he only gets a couple shots a game, or if it's a night where he has to shoot like 20 times. That's cool, Iceberg. I mean,
Iceberg's just talking a little smack against the Warriors. I will say, I'm assuming you listened to the Warriors broadcast, or were you at the game tonight?
Yeah, I was listening to the broadcast. No, I didn't go tonight.
The Wolves broadcast multiple times referred to Jimmy Butler as General Soreness, and it's like chef's kiss, Alan Horton, if you're listening.
You see, that's the beauty of the Jimmy Butler Warriors relationship, because he's always great in the honeymoon phase, right? Anywhere he goes. That's the beauty of him and the Warriors, right? His contract only lasts 2 years, so we're only getting a honeymoon phase. Right? So
it is kind of impressive with Jimmy and also Iceberg. I appreciate you for tuning in, and it's fine with the foul words. You only said one, and it's a synonym for behind, so that's fine. It is impressive though that Jimmy over the last 4 stops. I mean, Minnesota, we had a year and change before he exploded it here. Philly, he lasted for just that one season. Miami, he lasts like 2 years and change, 3 years and change, and now it seems like Golden State. I mean, I'm not covering Golden State closely, obviously, but there's again a lot of smoke that Jimmy is already maybe malcontent.
I don't know about that. And I'm not just trying to be a homer. I'm hardly a shill. I'm not on the payroll or anything, right? In terms of him and his fit in the community, he's been great. Always been really active. I'm sure he has been at these other places too. But with the team, I don't know. I mean, I think he's really embraced the entire team, but especially the young guys. I think he's trying to help them get to where they want to go. But again, he and Draymond, I think at times people think that they're sending mixed messages. I think they're actually more aligned than some fans believe. Really, a lot of what they were saying, I know it's Draymond's phrasing, saying in terms of agendas, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's okay if a player has an agenda. Agenda being you have something that you are prioritizing. You have a goal, right?
Every player has agendas.
Exactly. But as Draymond said,
it's almost naive to think they don't.
Yeah. But as Draymond,
every one of them does.
As Draymond and Jimmy were trying to allude to, right? It's as long as the agenda fits within the context of what the team's trying to do, then more power to you. I think Jimmy is, if there is something irritating him, I think it's with, again, probably certain lineup decisions that he definitely doesn't agree with. And I don't think it's necessarily the player's fault. I think it's more of a mandate from the front office.
Gotcha.
Or management. I think you can kind of tell who I'm alluding to here. The guy who's showing up in a lot of trade rumors. And I think that's the thing, right? I think he's really tried to help those guys, because I think, when Jimmy was definitely at the end of his Chicago Bulls tenure, right? He was that guy, right? Kind of in and out of, am I really in the plan or not? But it's just not clicking. And then it's just not clicking on the court. So it's okay, well, what are we doing? Right. So, because I understand the veterans, if you want to say the veterans are being selfish, that's your prerogative. But I feel they understand that their window of contention is very finite. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's it. They want to maximize that. They don't want to have to continue doing this experimental thing when they know certain things are working. So I don't know. I don't know if it's as negative as some people think, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me being glass half full, right?
What I'll say is Jimmy I don't buy into the Jimmy's just an opportunist or anything like that type of thing. I think he has a set of values and morals that are very strong to him. And when people don't meet those values or morals, I think he sours quickly. In
Yeah.
Minnesota, what kind of started all of this was Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns not being like very good professionals in his first
Yeah.
season here, of not showing up early, not doing all of the things that he does. And Jimmy, as a late second round draft pick that has had to claw for everything in life, I think when he sees 2 first overall picks not putting in the same effort as he does, it ticked him off. And then they didn't give him a contract extension, but they did give Andrew Wiggins a contract extension. And I think that was kind of the straw that broke it. I think it was kind of similar in Philadelphia, where they ended up paying, who was it at the time? Tobias Harris, I think, is the man that's catching all the strays. That kind of broke it there. You go to Miami and everything's kind of hunky dory. And then some of these young guys, you can just tell Jimmy didn't really, I don't have any inside reporting on Miami's situation, but just optics wise, you could kind of tell there were certain guys on the team that he just got after more. And I think with the Warriors, I think him, Steph, and Draymond are a dream fit of they, all 3 of them are basketball geniuses. All 3 of them see the game at an insanely high level. They make the right decisions, all of that. And then it's we mentioned Pods, Kuminga, this younger layer of players that just aren't living up to expectations. And I think for a guy like Jimmy, that's frustrating, because it's hey, if I could do it as a nobody out of Texas, why aren't these guys able to do it? And I think when Jimmy's confronted with that, I think that's, if I had to put on my amateur psychology hat, I think that's what it is. It's just this guy doesn't understand that some people aren't as driven as him, which fair.
Yeah.
It's got him to the top of the NBA, cream of the crop in the NBA. I'm not going to critique his life view, but that's kind of my read on it, is I think that stuff really irritates him.
I think that is very accurate, and actually it's kind of funny you mentioned that. I think even going back to definitely in Miami, I would always call certain lineups Jimmy lineups.
Yeah.
Right. You could definitely tell there's certain lineups he really likes, even if they're not the most.
Kyle Lowry. It's oh, all right. Yeah. Jimmy's happy now.
Right. Or even playing with I don't know, Duncan Robinson and Kelly Olynyk. It's not necessarily the most talented guys. It's the guys he understands. He can trust that they see the game the same way he does, even if they can't play it as well as he does. And same thing with the Warriors. It's yeah, he likes rolling with Pat Spencer and Quentin Post, right? That's those are the guys. Those are the guys he trusts. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. I totally agree, and I think that's fair, and I can understand why that would rub some people the wrong way. But the thing is, as you said, the fit with him and with Jimmy, Steph, and Draymond. Steph, I think probably feels the exact same way as Jimmy and Draymond. He just won't be as vocal or animated about it, especially in the media. But he definitely feels the same way, So
it just must be for Draymond too, guy that comes out of Michigan State and doesn't really have a position, scraps and claws for everything. I'm not saying Jordan Poole deserved to get punched, but I can kind of see Draymond's side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. I'm not laughing at anybody being assaulted. I'm just, yes.
Right. I'm not saying he deserved it, but at the same, when it happened, I was yeah, I mean, Draymond's had to work for everything in his life, and Poole's, doing a bunch of dribble moves and hitting an insane shot and, getting more love than he is. I'd probably be pissed too. Conrado, I do want to give you the space here. We're hitting 50 minutes on a post Warriors podcast. Anything you want to promote, anything you want to plug, the floor is yours, and then we'll wrap it up here.
No, I mean, just as always, you can follow me on Twitter or X, right? At CP3_777. at the top of my profile, you'll see the link to my main podcast, East Meets West, with my co-host, MJ Michael Tolliver. We're doing some really fun NBA episodes lately called Temperature Checks. So we're, interviewing writers, analysts of each team, trying to get an idea of what the pulse of that team, the fan base. So you're going to see our friend here, Andrew Dukowitz. He will be on for the Minnesota Timberwolves temperature check in the near future. But other than that, you can also catch my work on the Center Hub, or again, where I have all my NBA and WNBA draft content.
Awesome. Thanks, Conrado. I appreciate you coming on. Hopefully we have a playoff series to talk about in the next few months here, but I always appreciate you, man.
All right. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right. And for Wolves fans, if you jumped into this late, it will be a podcast released Saturday morning at 7 a.m. It lives on forever over at the Missing Minnesota YouTube channel under the Missing Wolves tab. And it lives on forever on X as well. So if you want to rewatch it at 12:30 in the morning on Saturday, feel free. I'm not going to force you to. I am going to go to bed and not rewatch this at 12:30 in the morning. But if you do, it is already out there. If not, podcast, and we will be back Sunday after the Kings game. Hopefully talking about another win. If they win that one, it's 7 out of 8. And I think the vibes hopefully will at least be fairly good. Hopefully fairly good. Everyone pray for Bones' knee tonight. That's all I got.
There you go.